Hello and welcome everyone to Dax Electronic Repair. Today we're going to be doing a Moto G Power 2021 version. Broken screen. There's your broken screen. It's Motorola. So first thing, you can see even the LCD inside is broken. It's not just the glass. So we're going to fix it. Go ahead, pry around. The back of this is made of like a rubbery plastic stuff. So I heat it up and pry around. Alright, then it comes off. Then you're going to remove a large number of screws. I want to say it's almost 20. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus whatever. Anyway, a lot of screws. They are all the same size. So you don't have to organize this time. I always preach organization with these screws, but these are all the same length, so you don't have to. But if you want to, you can, just to be consistent. All right, there's our top half. It's our backing, or our case. All right, so this holds in the top, the main motherboard. And with this one, the power cable was kind of glued to the back of it too. So the power cable came up with it from the battery. As I always say, get that battery unplugged. Get it unplugged immediately. This one, it did it itself because it knows how much I like to say that. All right, now we're going to do the bottom half. This is where our daughter board is. We're charging port, vibration motor, things like that. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many. There's a bunch. Again, same size. Not only are they the same size, all on the bottom, they're the same size and length of the top ones. So you can make a neat little pile. All right, pry that puppy up. Be careful of the ribbon cables and the little coaxial cables. So we are now ready to take our SIM card out, because we got to take that out to get our motherboard, our main motherboard out. So you get your handy dandy SIM card pusher, pull that guy out of there and put it aside. So with this repair, we're actually going to be doing a frame and screen replacement. So we are going to be just swapping all the internals, basically. There's our new frame and screen. It does make a better repair, I believe, without that we don't have to try to adhere the new screen to a frame. It just doesn't always go well. This is a stronger repair. So first thing we want to do, that is our display ribbon for our old and new. You can see we're basically just plugging in the new screen to the old everything to make sure our new screen is good and is not defective. If it's defective, we're gonna have a bad time, especially if we have gone all the way through the repair. I always do that. I am sheltering or darkening the screen to make sure there are no dead pixels. This one looked good. I could kind of tell on the white when that Motorola sign came up that we were good to go. Again, double check. Got to kind of be careful, or you got to kind of squint, because the proximity sensor, which also, or the not proximity sensor, but the light sensor is still on this motherboard, so it thinks it's dark, so it's not gonna give you brightness. Anyway, all right, so when everything's good, so we're gonna start taking this one all the way apart. Bottom daughter board is held in with one screw. It was right there. This ribbon cable runs under the battery to the top board. Daughterboard to the motherboard. So that's the only screw we have to hold that bottom board down. Now we're just going to go ahead and disconnect everything on the top. Got a few ribbon cables that do various things. Some of them are behind some tape, so just be real careful when you pick them up. You can accidentally pull too hard, peeling the tape up, and destroy the ribbon cable. So if you need a little heat, get your heat gun out and heat it up a little bit. Alright, so now we're going to take this camera, the rear camera off, one of the rear cameras, one of the three, and underneath there is our one screw that is holding the top motherboard in. And we've got one, yep, that one can stay on because it is not glued down. So now we can pry this guy up. Find a good place to put your plastic prying thing. Be careful of the ribbon cables as you go. You can see that one's kind of in the way. Just push it aside. And it pops out. Now the white and black wires are also run from the top board to the bottom board. They kind of slide. They're kind of in a little recess in the frame next to the battery, so they are kind of a pain to take on and off. So whenever I can, I try and avoid undoing them. So we're gonna wait on that until we get the battery out, or at least a little closer. There goes our bottom board. And now we can pull those wires up and out to the side. So now we don't have to make those connections again because they are a pain. Alright, so the last thing we need to do is just go ahead and go through this. We need to get the battery out, but we also need to get all the parts off of this frame that do not come with the new frame. Some of them do, some of them don't. Like this vibration motor does not come installed on the new frame. So we're going to go ahead and give it some heat and pry it up so we can put it on the new one. Careful with these boards, they're very fragile. And of course, the ribbon cables are fragile as well. I like to take it up with the adhesive if you can, because then you can reuse it. Just makes it a little bit easier. Alright, our front ear speaker, or our top rear ear speaker, rather, is right here. It also needs to go. It's just held in basically by that little piece of tape and some front adhesive. Alright, then there's a little connector board right there as well. That one needed a little bit of heat. If it doesn't pry right off, give it some heat. You don't want to pry on these things. Doesn't move right away, give her some juice. All right. I actually went ahead and heated this battery up on my hot plate to get it off of there. It was sticking pretty well, but when you do pry this thing out, try and use a plastic prying tool just because if you puncture the battery with a metal one, you're going to short it, and it's going to be a bad time. But also, watch out for these cables. This one we're reusing. The other one doesn't matter because it's for the old display, but we need to reuse this one. So when you're prying, be aware that there is a ribbon cable underneath there, so be careful, or you'll have to buy a new ribbon cable. There's a little bit of an adhesive strip that kind of goes across the bottom of there. It's holding that ribbon cable in. Alright, so we have a gutted frame, screen and frame assembly. So now we do the exact same thing in reverse. Go ahead and put down everything you just took up. You can see that there's 2 ribbon connectors that come with the new screen or the new frame. So obviously we're not going to reuse the old ones. And that's where our ribbon cable from the top to the bottom board goes. I probably should have waited to peel that adhesive and put this thing down, because I will later on need to move it. You really want to get your mother and daughter board in place before you put that down. There's our speaker. You can see on our cable we just put down MB and then an up symbol. That means motherboard is up, so you know which way it's oriented. Alright, there's our little connector board. Not sure what it does, but it's got gold contacts, so it makes connections with something. So it is necessary. Alright, then we go down to the bottom and we put our vibration motor back down. It's got the 2 little holes, or tabs rather, that the 2 little holes go through. Tabs go through, yes. Make sure it's nice and centered. Then there's a little piece that kind of fell out of the old one. It's like it's for the microphone on the bottom. It holds it in place. And actually, there's a top one as well that I did not pull. This gray one right here. Oh, and it shot out. Luckily I found it. Don't do it that way. And it goes up top in the new little hole. Alright, now that we've got all of our things that go on the motherboard first, we go ahead and put that down. You can see the black cable. You can see the wire on it. It actually kind of stripped itself as it came off because it was down in that hole. I did fix it. I did I guess you would say reseal it. I resealed it, so it's not going to make connection with anything bad. And short out. So with this, you gotta kind of put them down inside that groove we pulled them out of. You can see the top of the black one actually came out. And there you can see I did a repair on the wire itself. Not a big deal. Does the exact same thing. The battery kind of holds it in there, in that little hollow area down in there. But it is a little fiddly. Also, when you're putting in the top, when you're putting in the motherboard, just be careful of the wire ribbon cables again, just to make sure they're exactly, you're not crushing them. And you can see, this is what I was talking about earlier. I should have waited to put that ribbon cable in, because even a little bit off will make it so it doesn't seat properly. So I kind of had to pull it back up. Not a big deal, but you can learn from my trials and errors. Not really an error, inconveniences. Alright, so we've got everything back in. Just got to make a couple more connections. And there's new adhesive for the battery right there. So go ahead and put the battery back down. You also don't want to pry too much on this battery and crease it. You want to crease it as little as possible. So just go slow when you're getting it out. Alright, we're doing all of our ribbon connectors. We're just putting them back where they need to go. Obviously the battery stays off until the very end, or as close to it as possible. Motherboard screw. Daughter board screw. Screen connector. Rear facing camera. And we're going to do one more test before we go ahead and button it all back up. Just do a once over, make sure everything is where it needs to be. Everything is plugged in properly. And we're just going to give it a little bit of power. And see that it comes up. Motorola. Alright. Pull your power. And now it's time for final assembly. The only thing you got to be careful here of is the black and white cables. Connect the bottom of the top. Make sure they're not in the wrong place. There's a place where the bottom assembly cover goes on, where it can let it through. So make sure it doesn't pinch it, basically, or is in the way of a screw. So that can happen too. All right, now we put in 1,000 screws, one by one. Again, they're all the same, doesn't matter. But it does make it so you really want to do it right, so you don't have to take this apart again, because these screws are a pain to take in and out a million times. All right, SIM card tray and SIM card pop back in. And now we're going to go ahead and get the back ready to go. Now this one did not come with this gasket, double-sided adhesive. That's okay. What I do is I go ahead and take all the old adhesive off and make my own. It's a fiddly process. It's time-consuming. But if you just put double-sided tape over it, it's not going to sit right. It's not going to look right. It's not going to seal as well. You owe it to yourself. to do it the right way. All right, so we're all prepped. All the old stuff is off. And I just have this super duper red tape, red back tape, different sizes. These phones are never really waterproof, so I don't ever worry about there being little gaps, anything like that. I always tell a customer that even if they say it's waterproof, I would not trust that. Especially when you're spending thousands of dollars, more over $1,000 on a phone. Keep it away from water. That is best practice. I don't think this one claimed to be waterproof either. I'm actually reusing the double-sided tape around the camera assembly because it was still good. Now that I made my gasket, just go ahead, go around. Make it seal, make it good, look at the gaps, see if anything's funky. Then you do one more time before you give it to the customer. Thank you so much for checking out my video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And again, thank you for watching. I love you all.